Chris Boyer with Hospital Online Marketing, and today I'm having the great pleasure of speaking with Shel Holtz, who's the principal of Holtz Communication and Technology. Now, I recently met up with Shel at the Healthcare Internet Conference in Las Vegas, where he gave a really good speech on the role of Web 2.0 and social media in public relations and communications. So, Shel, thanks for being here on the phone with me today.
It's my pleasure, Chris. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Shel, as you know, the role of a communications manager is becoming very complex with social media lowering the walls between the business and the consumer and giving them a worldwide platform for patients to even create their own message about hospitals. Now, obviously, this has a great impact on PR strategies. Tell me a little bit about how you feel PR strategies are going to be affected by this.
I think it gives public relations people an opportunity to get closer to the publics that they're trying to build relationships with. I mean, when it's practiced at its best, at its most ideal, public relations is all about relationship building. I mean, the word relations is in the title, public relations. And the best public relations are ones that build and manage and maintain relationships with stakeholder audiences. Now, a customer can be a stakeholder audience, but there are others. And I think the difference between public relations and marketing is that while marketing is geared toward building affinity for product and services and having a more long-term effect on sales than, say, advertising does, public relations is really aimed at the people who, if you don't have a good relationship with them, they can become an obstacle to the organization doing what it does. This could be through legislation and regulation. It could be through boycotts, strikes. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that organizations can revoke, the publics can revoke an organization's ability to do business, revoke that permission. So since it's all about relationships anyway, social media provides the means by which you can build those more directly with the stakeholders rather than go through channels that PR has traditionally used, primarily mainstream media.
Mm-hmm. I often say that social media is similar to the democratization of communications and marketing, because the consumer themselves now have the ability to broadcast their view of your business worldwide through the internet. Isn't that true?
Yeah. Oh, well, absolutely. And to share opinions with each other, to share experiences with each other. And if you look at the studies that have been done by organizations like Edelman, which conducts an annual study on trust, trust in organizations has declined precipitously, while trust in peers, trust in each other, has become the most accepted form of marketing. I mean, people talk to each other and trust people like themselves.
Right, right. Now, as I look back at 2009, and one of the things I blogged about is that, 2009 can really be defined as the year of Twitter, or in real sense, what I mean is in real-time communication, right? And so I believe that real-time has kind of permeated all the aspects of traditional media. You can see now that, the newspapers, the news reporters online, even celebrities have Twitter accounts. And consumers have access to getting that information directly and also communicating directly. So tell me a little bit about how you feel real-time affects communication strategies for businesses.
I think we're just at the very, very beginning of understanding the impact of real-time and the very beginning of real-time permeating the web. I think it's going to have a huge impact. It's all been about static content up to this point. It's all been about having your homestead on the internet. You have to have your website so that people can find you when they go looking for you. But we now live in the era of the 140-character news cycle. And I think it's redefining the very concept of what news is. I started my career as a journalist. I went to journalism school, worked for a daily newspaper, and among journalists there's always been this discussion about how do you define news. And I think the common denominators you find in the various definitions are that it's momentous, that it affects a lot of people, and I don't think that's the case anymore, because people graze for news. They're checking at any given time. They don't wait for the newspaper to show up and then spend 30 minutes with it or watch the nightly news. And when there is breaking news, they want to know what's happening now. Okay, what's happening now? All right, what's happening now? And they're is now this need for organizations to fill that news cycle with updates, lest other people come in with misinformation or undesirable information to fill the gap that you've provided by not responding. And there's probably no better example than that than the initial swine flu outbreak, H1N1 outbreak. It was definitely swine flu at that time. And the CDC was out there at least every hour with an update. Now, in the old days, the CDC would have issued a press release, and then they might have been back with a follow-up statement the next day. But every hour, and even that, I think, probably wasn't enough, given the amount of speculation that was flooding the news cycle.
Right, but isn't there a risk involved with this? I mean, because of this need now that everyone has to get this little bit of information all the time, always checking into Twitter, that information becomes non-vetted in certain aspects. I mean, I live in Colorado where the balloon boy was a big deal, right? And that just dominated Twitter. And that happens in many different examples. Even with the tragedy that's going on in Haiti right now, there's misinformation being put out there on Twitter, which then suddenly becomes formalized. How does a professional public relations communications manager deal with this?
It's interesting. I just blogged about this, I think, on Thursday. Wrote a post that was pointing to some research that validated exactly what you just said. There is so much misinformation, or information at least, that isn't authenticated, that people have actually renewed their need for an authoritative source for this information. So even though we see a decline, for example, in newspaper readership, we've seen newspapers going out of business left and right, people wait for the newspaper story to come out online, not necessarily in print, to say, yes, this is in fact the case. Not just newspapers, but authoritative voices. If you think about Michael Jackson's death, for example, lots and lots of people were out there saying, yes, he's dead, because TMZ had said so. But a lot of people didn't believe it until it cleared CNN or one of the mainstream news sites. Well, organizations can be authoritative, too. In fact, one of the studies that I cited in my blog post talked about the fact that so much news that gets into the mainstream news package is originated by somebody other than the reporters, the journalists themselves. A lot of it comes from corporations and organizations trying to tell their story. And you're seeing a lot of press releases show up in mainstream news now, as they have fewer reporters, fewer staff to go out and do original reporting. So there's an opportunity now, I think, for organizations to tell their story, to have it attached to the organization's credibility, to its brand, and have that be what people believe, as they are looking for those authoritative sources and the information that they can look at and say, yeah, okay, it's true.